The Japanese Communist Party's headquarters are in Tokyo. We're not going to go there. Okay. It's because they have betrayed their revolutionary roots. Do you understand? That's why. In the wake of the Sino-Soviet split, the JCP began to distance itself from the Eastern Bloc, especially the Soviet Union. The party consequently did not suffer an internal crisis as a result of the Soviet Union's collapse in 1981. Instead, it welcomed its dissolution of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, which it described as the embodiment of the historical evil of great power chauvinism and hegemonism. Ooh. Why does it say pacifism? I think that at a certain point, I'm not entirely familiar with their history, but I think at a certain point they literally turned around and openly stated that they were not interested in any sort of like revolutionary warfare, any sort of violence whatsoever. Its early leadership was drawn from the anarcho-syndicalist and Christian socialist movements that developed in the turn of the century. From the former came Yamakawa Hitoshi, Sakai Toshihiko, and Arahata Kansen, who had been supporters of Katoki Shusui, an anarchist executed in 1911. Katayama Sen, another early party leader, had been a Christian socialist for much of his political life. They were outlawed and persecuted. It was an underground political association, outlawed in 1925 with the passage of the Peace Preservation Law. The JCP was subjected to repression and persecution by the Special Higher Police, nicknamed the Thought Police. JCP members and sympathizers were imprisoned and pressured to convert to anti-communist nationalism. The ones who refused to convert remained in prison for the duration of the Pacific War. The Japanese Communist Party member Hotsumi Ozaki was a part of the Richard Sorge spy ring for the Kremlin and was the only Japanese person hanged for treason under the Peace Preservation Law. The post-war reemergence came in the legalization in 1945 of the Allied military occupation of Japan, and since then has been a legal political party able to contest elections. In the aftermath of the war, under the guidance of the charismatic party chairman Sanzo Nosaka, the party pursued a policy portraying itself as lovable. Nosaka's strategy involved avoiding open calls for violent revolution and taking advantage of the seemingly pro-labor stance of the occupation to organize the urban working classes and win power at the ballot box through propaganda. In particular, the party was successful in winning acceptance of the notion that communists had been the only ones to resist Japanese wartime militarism. This propaganda effort won the party thousands of new members and even a larger number of sympathizers, especially among artists and intellectuals. It won 10% of the vote and sent 35 representatives to the Diet. Diet? I don't know if I'm reading that right. Diet. Red Purge and the turn to violence. In the beginning of the fall of 1949, in reaction to JCP's electoral success, the U.S.-led occupation authorities and the Japanese government carried out a sweeping Red Purge. Huh. That's so weird that in the aftermath of World War II, in post-war permanent occupation, the United States planted right-wing fascist governments that then ended up committing atrocities in the name of right-wing fascism. That's so strange. It's certainly unique, I think. Who could have done that? Wait, what? What is this? The CIA spent millions to support the Japanese right in the 50s and 60s? What? Stop. The U.S.-led occupation authorities and the Japanese government carried out a sweeping red purge, firing tens of thousands of communists and suspected communists from government posts, teaching positions at universities, high schools, and primary schools, as well as from private corporations. The purge was further intensified in response to the outbreak of the Korean War. Against this backdrop, the Soviet-led Cominform, at the behest of Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin, issued a blistering criticism of the JCP's peaceful line as opportunism and glorifying American imperialism. It also demanded that the JCP carry out an immediate violent revolution along Maoist lines. This devastating Cominform criticism led rival JCP factions to compete for the Cominform's approval and ultimately led to the militant 1951 platform, which declared that it would be a serious mistake to think that Japan's liberation could be achieved through peaceful democratic means, and called for an immediate violent revolution. The result was a campaign of violence in which JCP activists threw Molotov cocktails at police boxes, and cadres were sent up to the mountains with instructions to organize oppressed farmers into mountain guerrilla squads. The backlash of the JCP's new militant line was swift and severe. Militants were rounded up, tried, and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. And in the 1952 general election, Japanese voters vented their ire at the JCP by stripping the party of every single one of its 35 Diet seats, a blow from which it would take 2 decades to recover. Stunned, the JCP gradually began to pull back from its militant line, a process facilitated by the death of Stalin. Bro, every single part of this is like a story as old as time itself. You got revisionists on the one hand trying to, probably naively generate a crumb of democratic power in a bourgeois state that is currently being occupied by the hegemonic superpower that is like forcibly strong dicking you into implementing capitalist development. And then you have other groups that are like, no, fuck that. Other leftist groups that are like, no, fuck that, dude. No, we got to take matters into our own hands. And then, I don't know. I don't know how fucking strong and successful and how, I don't know what the legitimate Maoist movement looked like there. So, but it seems they got owned. At the Six-Party Congress in 1955, the JCP renounced the militant line completely, returning to its old peaceful line of gradually pursuing socialist revolution through peaceful democratic means. Hold on, let's get back to this. In 1960, the JCP played a central role in organizing the massive Anpo protests against the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty, which is the largest protest in Japan's history. They took a different line to the Japan Socialist Party, Sohyo Labor Federation, and other groups who argued that the main target of the protest movement was Japanese monopoly capitalism. Instead, JCP argued that the main enemy was American imperialism, along with affiliated groups. Focused his protests around an embassy in Tokyo, where the Haggerty incident happened, in which a car carrying U.S. President Eisenhower's press secretary was mobbed outside of Tokyo's Haneda airport, provoking a major international incident, helping to precipitate the downfall of the Nobusuke Kishi cabinet. The Anpo protests were a turning point in the JCP's ongoing attempts to revive its political fortune after the disastrous turn towards violent revolution in the 50s. Although the Maoists had been purged from the party following the earlier disaster, the JCP was still riven by age-old rivalry between the Ronoha, the worker-farmer faction, and the Kozaha, the lecture faction, which dated back to the pre-war era. Oh my God. Every single movement, dude. You have people who are directly on the peasant side, with genuine immediate need and emancipation. And you have the lecture side, I suspect, which also has like a decent understanding of the process. But there is no problem with the fucking nerds. Like, don't misunderstand me. I'm a nerd. I'm on literally the fucking aristocracy side from where I'm standing. And it's just, there's no way to like get it entirely together. When ultra-left devotionists, anarchists and Maoists, and right deviationists like liberals control the narrative, we all lose. What's up? No, I'm good. Thank you. People actually doing the work, doing direct action versus armchair academic opportunities, waiting for the revolution to happen for them? No. I think that when you actually have people trying to do direct action, you end up with the Maoist faction, which is, permanent imprisonment. So there you go. You're doing that right now. No, the entire point of this process is to be united. When do anarchists control the narrative or work together with Maoists? I think they're talking about infighting, wreckers. In a lot of instances, wreckers can be anarchists as well as Maoists. They're not like united under common goals. Clearly, I think they just mean like from a sectarian infighting or like leftist solidarity. That's what they're talking about. The AMPO protests were a turning point in the JCP's ongoing attempts. Among other disagreements, the two factions disagreed over which stage of Marxist development Japan was currently in. The Ronoha believed that Japan had already achieved full capitalism, which meant that an immediate socialist revolution was possible, whereas the Kozaha argued that Japan's transition to capitalism was not yet complete and that therefore there was needed a two-stage revolution. First, a democratic revolution that would overthrow American imperialism and establish true democracy, then a socialist revolution that would establish communism. Although the mainstream of the JCP, led by Kenji Miyamoto, favored the Kozaha interpretation, as late as the seventh party in Congress in 1958, the anti-mainstream Ronoha faction, led by Shojiro Kasuga, still controlled around 40% of the delegates. The AMPO protest greatly strengthened the hand of the Kozaha faction. During the protest, the JCP, still scarred by the backlash, the Kozaha is the lecture faction, by the way, which the majority held, but the Ronoha peasant faction, like the farmer faction, was still most likely the reason why that was the case is because the rural areas are probably the reason. I don't know what the actual reason is, but the rural areas probably had more politicians that were elected because obviously for the most part the same areas where you have the lecture faction are most likely going to be liberal, fascist adjacent, CIA-backed pieces of shit who greatly value the many benefits that they're gaining from neoliberal democracy, right? Neoliberal capitalist democracy favors them. So that's the reason why, even though there's more people, it's the same. Like you see similar conflicts within the Labor Party under Corbyn. You have like strongholds, like labor strongholds, that have a waning population, but have like a genuine interest in having, strong labor protections. And then you have like the fucking bullshit gay, queer, London labor guys who are the youth, who are academics, who everyone fucking makes fun of and says like, you're lame, you represent the party now. It's a different party. It is an identical issue. Whereas like both factions are interested in emancipation, they have different methods to go through. And this is a genuine problem with like leftist infighting no matter what. That divide has existed everywhere. That divide will continue to exist. And people will tell you, people who know too much and have read too much will tell you that, one side is definitely fucked up. The most important Leninist norm is unity in action. We can't have factions inside a communist party. It will detonate infighting. We can always think different, but in work, we always do the same. This party had big mistakes. Every party has had the same exact mistakes. The AMPO protest greatly strengthened the hand of the Kozaha faction. During the protest, the JCP, still scarred by the backlash to its violent line in the 50s, consistently advocated peaceful, orderly, and restrained protests. This stance was highly unpopular with the radical student activists of the Zengakuran student faction, who broke decisively with the JCP as a result and began to build a new left student movement. However, the movement proved to be unpopular with the broader public, and the JCP was able to use its image as a peaceful and positive force during the protests as a recruitment tool. Membership in the party soared during the course of the protest, doubling from 40,000 to 80,000, and most of the recruits wound up supporting the Kozahal line. They did purges, and they took out all the Rona Ha faction people, and others dissatisfied with JCP policies quit the party on their own accord. Miyamoto was able to cement his control over the party and reigned as party chairman all the way until 1982. Meanwhile, the party's membership continued to grow rapidly, and the party began to make steady gains at the ballot box, winning more seats in the national diet. By the 60s, the United States Department estimated party membership to be approximately 120,000, and it was 300,000 by 1970. In 2008, they gained more members. Understandably so. Is the most progressive. Surprising that they're regarded as the most progressive party in Japanese politics. They have traditionally been opposed to the existence of the imperial house since the pre-war days. The party changed its stance in 2004 by acknowledging the emperor as the Japan's head of state. JCP has stated that it supports the establishment of a democratic republic, but also that the monarchy continuation or discontinuation should be decided by the will of the majority of the people in the future. It is also against Japan's use of its national flag and national anthem, which it sees as Japan's militarist past. They support the LGBT equality law, and they support the legalization of same-sex marriage. They've always had a Japanese feminist camp relationship. The JCP adheres to the idea that Japan as an Asian country must stop putting emphasis on diplomacy, centering on relations with the United States and the G8 summit, and put Asian diplomacy at the center of its foreign relations. I'll show you this, though. This is what they do now. I gotta pee. I'll be back in a second. I'm sorry. There's no fucking shot you can say anything mean about Japan when you see this shit. Okay? These motherfuckers are selling the Communist Party with the power of anime, dude. Like, this is unironically a thing. It just, like, blows my fucking mind. Like, you go to Japan and they're just, like, they just have anime on main. They're posting anime on main nonstop. This is what the dude was listening to when he double barreled Shinzo Abe with a shotty made from 7-Eleven products. Shinzo Abe? No. I don't think that dude was a communist at all, brother. I think he just had a lot of resentment towards the Shinzo Abe Korean cult connection. Speaking of the song, did you see the Doodleburb's latest art from day 3? It's from the taxi. Oh. Yeah. I did do this. I did show the Japanese haname song. This is, oh God, this is still the best moment that I've had. Why don't you live in Japan? I can't watch your streaming while you're in LA because you are streaming like at midnight Japan time. Gonna go ahead and take this moment to remind you that the Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans was literally written by and show ran by a communist. You really should watch it. I know Gundam is like, all the mecha anime are the most political ones, like openly political ones. But the unfortunate the unfortunate thing is that I just don't like fucking. I just don't like mecha animes except for Attack on Titan.